You know what's funny about rich people? They'll spend thousands on a bottle of wine that tastes like notes of oak with hints of pretension. But somehow throughout history, the wealthier you were, the more likely you were to eat something that would make a modern college student on ramen noodles go, "Nah, I'm good." Today we're diving into the absolutely revolting foods that the elite thought were peak cuisine. And trust me, after this video, you'll never complain about airplane food again. Let's start in ancient Rome, because of course we're starting with the Romans. They basically invented being extra. While regular people were eating bread and olives like normal humans, the wealthy Romans were out here treating their dinner parties like some twisted episode of Fear Factor. Picture this. You're invited to a fancy Roman feast. You show up expecting maybe some grapes and wine, and instead, you're served a whole roasted peacock. Not just any peacock. One that's been stuffed with smaller birds, which were stuffed with even smaller birds, like some kind of poultry Russian nesting doll from hell. They called it turducken before turducken was cool, except way more traumatic for everyone involved. But wait! It gets worse! These absolute mad lads were eating flamingo tongues. Flamingo tongues. Imagine being so rich that you look at a beautiful pink bird and think, you know what? I bet the tongue is the best part. They literally drove flamingos to near extinction in some areas just so they could have the world's most expensive and pointless appetizer. It's like if Jeff Bezos decided to eat unicorn horns, completely unnecessary, ridiculously expensive, and probably not even that good. Now, if you think that's bad, buckle up because we're time traveling to medieval Europe, where the rich people somehow managed to make Roman food choices look reasonable. Medieval nobles were obsessed with something called cockentrace. And no, that's not a Harry Potter creature, though it sounds like one. This was literally a pig sewn together with a chicken, roasted, and served at banquets. Someone looked at two perfectly good animals and said, "You know what this needs? Frankenstein energy." It was like medieval meal prep, but make it cursed. The real kicker, they thought the more bizarre and expensive the ingredient, the more it showed their status. So naturally, they started eating swan. Not just any swan, mute swans, which were considered royal birds. Eating swan was basically the medieval equivalent of buying a Lamborghini just to crash it into a wall to show how rich you are. And apparently, swan tastes terrible. Multiple historical accounts describe it as tough, fishy, and generally awful. But hey, at least your dinner guests knew you had money to waste on bird that tastes like disappointment. But here's where things get really spicy. Literally. Medieval rich people were absolutely obsessed with spices, to the point where they dumped so much cinnamon, cloves, and pepper on their food that you couldn't taste the actual meat anymore. They were basically the ancestors of people who put hot sauce on everything, except instead of Tabasco, they were using spices worth more than a peasant's annual income. Some dishes had so many spices that historians think they were trying to cover up the taste of spoiled meat. Imagine paying premium prices to eat rotten food covered in expensive seasoning. It's like buying a designer trash bag. Technically fancy, but still trash. Moving on to Renaissance Italy, where the Medici family was out here eating things that would make Gordon Ramsay have a complete meltdown. They were serving dishes made with actual gold leaf. Not because it tasted good, but because eating literal money was apparently the ultimate flex. Gold has no nutritional value and no taste, so they were essentially eating the most expensive, flavorless garnish in human history. It's the culinary equivalent of wearing a Rolex made of cardboard. Looks impressive until you realize it's completely pointless. The French aristocracy, never to be outdone in the let's eat weird stuff department, took things to a whole new level. They were eating ortolan, tiny songbirds that were captured, force-fed until they doubled in size, then drowned in brandy and roasted whole. The traditional way to eat them was to cover your head with a napkin and eat the entire bird, bones and all, in one go. The napkin was supposedly to hide your shame from God, which should tell you everything you need to know about how messed up this dish was. It's like if someone invented a food so morally questionable that you literally had to hide from divine judgment while eating it. And let's talk about the ultimate rich people food obsession. Ambergris? This stuff was literally whale vomit. Or more accurately, a waxy substance that forms in sperm whale intestines and gets expelled. The wealthy were using this whale barf as a flavoring agent in their food and drinks because it was rare and expensive. They were literally seasoning their meals with marine mammal digestive issues and calling it gourmet. It's like if someone today started putting elephant earwax in their coffee because it cost $1,000 an ounce. The 18th century brought us to new heights of culinary insanity with dishes like calf's head turtle soup. This wasn't actually made with turtle. It was made with a calf's head prepared to taste like turtle soup, because apparently regular turtle soup wasn't weird enough. They took a perfectly normal cow, used only the head, and tried to make it taste like a completely different animal. It's the food equivalent of method acting, except nobody asked for this performance. But perhaps the most ridiculous example comes from Victorian England, where the wealthy were eating mock turtle soup made from calf's head because real turtle was getting too expensive even for rich people. So they created a fake version of an already questionable dish. It's like making a knockoff of something that was already a bad idea to begin with. They literally invented the concept of budget luxury by making poor people's versions of rich people's terrible food choices. Here's the thing that really gets me about all of this. While rich people throughout history were eating gold-covered whale vomit and Frankenstein poultry, regular people were developing actually delicious cuisines with simple, fresh ingredients. Peasants were creating pasta, perfecting bread, making incredible stews and soups that we still eat today. Meanwhile, the wealthy were over here, playing culinary Russian roulette with endangered species and animal organs. The irony is that most of these luxury foods were either tasteless, disgusting, or both. They weren't eating them because they were good. They were eating them because they were expensive and rare. It's the ultimate example of how having too much money can make you lose all common sense. These people had access to the best chefs, the finest ingredients, unlimited resources, and they chose to eat bird tongues and whale digestive byproducts. So the next time you're complaining about your food being too expensive or not fancy enough, just remember that throughout history, the fanciest food was usually the most disgusting. Sometimes the best luxury is just having something that actually tastes good and won't make you question your life choices. At least when we eat weird stuff today, we have the excuse of social media content. These people were doing it just because they could afford to. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed learning about history's most questionable dining choices, don't forget to hit that like button and follow the channel so you won't miss any of our new videos diving into the wildest stories from the past.